Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, makes its annual trek to the Big Easy this weekend, where today sounds of GT3 race cars replace the sonorous notes from the jazz clubs of the French Quarter. New Orleans is a city famous for its Mardi Gras parade, but here at NOLA Motorsports Park, the procession happens at over 150 miles per hour. The cars and the stars of the championship are here, set to contest their own Battle of New Orleans, and we're thrilled to have you along for the ride. Hello, my name is Ryan Marine. We'll hear from Calvin Fish shortly. Down on the pit lane, however, let's go ahead and welcome in the third member of the broadcast team, Amanda Busick.
And what a difference 24 hours can make. We were supposed to go green flag right around 3 p.m. yesterday, but we wouldn't see that green flag until 5 p.m. And boy, was it a race that we had at hand. We're getting ready for the fourth race of the season. And yesterday it was a rain line that we had to take earlier in the race. But today we're going to see racing here at NOLA Motorsports. And to see what that looks like, let's see for the Fanatec track preview with Daniel Morad.
Hey guys, I'm Daniel Morad, driver of the number 9 TR3 Racing Mercedes AMG GT3, and this is the lap guide for NOLA. This is my first time at NOLA. Amazing circuit, really technical and fast, and that just suits the Mercedes AMG GT3 beautifully. Coming through the gears into turn 1, up into 5th gear, pretty hard braking zone at the 2.5 marker. Hard on the brakes, release the brakes early just to roll the speed through the middle of the corner, and you're flat out through the center of turn 2. Up to 4th gear, we're looking for a really hard brake pressure into turn 3. You're braking through and past the corner, really diamonding or V'ing the corner off. Traction's really difficult. On exit, you want to open your hands as quick as you can. Up to 3rd gear into turn 4, back down to 2nd. Long duration corner, and traction's really difficult. You can see I'm struggling with the rear of the car. Open your hands as quick as possible up to the top of 3rd gear, all the RPMs. Just send it into turn 5 through 6. Really tricky entry. If you're too wide, you get into the marbles, you get that pickup, which is not ideal. So focusing on a great exit onto the back straight, up through the gears, we're gonna hit 5th. This is my favorite part of the track, so quick. This is where the AMG shines. Using all the curbs flat out to the entry, light brake pressure, back to hard throttle, off the throttle, really sacrifice the middle and just attack the last part of the S's into a very bumpy brake zone. Good passing opportunity as well. Just brake hard, off the brake, roll the curb, and now you have to ride this curb all the way around. Very bumpy. You're just patient on throttle. Attack in. You have to be very gentle with the throttle application. It's rear limited here. Open the hands as quick as you can, over the curbs, right to the wall, flat out down the straight, and that's a lap around NOLA.
Welcome down to the Big Easy for the second stop on the Fanatec GT season. There are 17 GT3 race cars ready to take to the 16 turns at NOLA Motorsports Park here behind me. But I think we're all still talking about that final lap in Sonoma between Ashton Harrison and Manny Franco. Coming out of the last turn, Ashton went on the inside of the Ferrari, and it was a drag race to the end, and that Racer's Edge Acura is your points leader. New Orleans last year was a breakout weekend for Ashton Harrison. She took pole in race number 1 and would win that weekend as well. But it was also a fantastic weekend for the Pirelli GT4 champions of Eric Filgaris and Stephen McLaren. They swept the weekend. Well, as we know, race number 1 in Sonoma, their debut race in GT3, these guys took the top step of the podium and celebrated accordingly. With a runner-up finish and a win in Sonoma, that CrowdStrike Mercedes is leading the points in the Pro-Am category, but other cars to watch here this weekend. Say hello to ACI Motorsports. They saw the podium in race number 1 with Pedro Torres and Spencer Pompelli, and in race number 2, that runner-up finisher was that TR3 Mercedes of Ziad Gandor and Daniel Morad. Racing in the AM category, the Bartone Brothers Racing Mercedes is back here this weekend. But guys, it is New Orleans, it is Jazz Fest weekend. Let's add the sounds of the GT machinery to the lineup.
Beautiful sights today, and welcome as well after all the weather yesterday. It's a beautiful day today, but let's go ahead and look to how the race played out. Race 1 of the weekend, it happened in damp conditions after a lengthy delay. Lots of water around the track, everyone starting on those wet weather Pirelli tires. Battles all throughout the field. Big moment there from Seth Lucas early in the race. Able to control that, however, and had a decent result. Good battle here as Ashton Harrison made her way forward in the Racer's Edge car. This was big-time drama for a contender in the Pro-Am ranks. Contact cut the tire. Jan Haywen suffered the damage and dropped out. Mario Farnbacher challenging for the overall lead, just got a little bit wide into the wet stuff, into the gravel, and out of the race. Bill Oberlin made a bid for the lead on a restart, trying to get by Stephen McAleer, couldn't get it done, and ultimately it cost him second spot as well as Alessandro Balzan swept through. RS1 picked up their second win of the season and just their third GT3 start, leading home a 1-2-3 ahead of Conquest Racing and Bimmer World. That was the celebration from the RS1 crew. Back down to Amanda, who is standing on a fantastic grid. And Amanda, the weather much better today.
Hey, I'll take it. And one of the themes that Cal and I were talking about during the race yesterday on that wet grid were the new faces that we're finding in this series. But today, race number 2, I want to go to the veterans that are racing in this series that we're going to see just in the front 3 rows alone. You're going to have Brian Sellers, Corey Lewis, Colin Brown. You're going to have John Edwards in this BMW. Jan Haylen on the front row. I did talk to that team quickly from that puncture and the damage on the Porsche yesterday. It was a quick fix for them, so they expect to be fast and quick here today. But just their second event in the Fanatec GT Series, Derek DeBoer and Valentin Haseclo on pole here today. And Derek, just seeing a car with your name on it taking the pole here, how just amazing of an experience is this for you?
Oh, it means so much. I've been striving to get to the GT3 class. TRG and the Archangel guys gave us just a flying fast Aston Martin, and Valentin put in a masterful lap. I'm just lucky to be learning from the best, and it's a nice view up here. We're going to try to keep it.
Well, we're getting the signal to step away from the cars here. That means we're getting ready for engine fire down here on pit lane, guys. Hold on tight. This is going to be a burner.
Yes, it will, Amanda. Thank you so much. Valentin Haseclo, as mentioned, qualified on pole. He turned this into his own private French quarter, the only French driver in the field here this weekend. Phenomenal in qualifying. He was good in race 1 as well. Shape it up to be a good race at NOLA Motorsports Park. The grid of 17 GT3 machines awaiting the command to roar to life. That's a look at the car that John Edwards will start in this race coming up here shortly. He and Samantha Tan had a decent result, all things considered. You see the thumbs up for the official there. It looks like most of the field has roared to life. Calvin Fish, welcome into the broadcast. Yesterday, it was all about managing the conditions, managing the weather. No such concerns today.
No, it's a beautiful day here. Ideal race conditions, just a really mild temperature compared to the heat and humidity that we had here on Friday a little bit. So totally different ball game for all of these drivers. And topsy-turvy grids, right? I mean, and a lot of the teams that did so well yesterday are mired at the back end of this field, so they got pace to really showcase what they can do, but they're going to have to fight hard on this racetrack. There are some overtaking opportunities here at NOLA, particularly through the first sector. First 3 or 4 corners gives you that chance, but the rest of us a little bit follow the leader, so it's going to take some patience, discipline, but also you got to get your elbows out at some point.
Talk about a topsy-turvy grid. The top 6 all from the Pro-Am ranks. The first Pro Class car back in P7. This is one of many onboard looks we'll have throughout the course of this broadcast. John Edwards, absolutely a star yesterday, Calvin, in his stint driving this car forward after a difficult opening stint in the damp conditions for Samantha Tan, his co-driver.
Yeah, that ST Racing team really done a solid job. I mean, John had this car on the pole for race 2 at Sonoma. They faded a little bit there. They've been working hard to get the balance of the car to stay with them throughout the course of these races. But he looked pretty racy here yesterday in qualifying, only a couple of tenths off the pole, so a lot of pace there. Potentially, he's going to try and hand that car over into a great track position, maybe try and grab the lead, but it's not going going to come easy, right? I mean, you got that Frenchie, as we call him now, VHC, Valentin Haseklo on the pole for TRG. Alongside him, Jan Halen. He's going to want to try and rebound from yesterday with that incident where he got the big body damage and had to retire the race car.
Certainly one of the lineups that has to look at yesterday as a missed opportunity. Jan Halen and Charlie Luck, they had a great deal of pace. That contact and ultimately the puncture, the damage from that punctured tire ruined what was a promising day.
It was, because Charlie did an outstanding job, dealing with the conditions. Everyone did. We saw very few mistakes from the whole field in what was still tricky conditions once we went racing. Puddles have subsided, no real standing water, but a very wet racetrack through the first 30-40 minutes yesterday. Charlie was on a charge, got the car in great track position, and then just one of those racing incidents. Colin Brown and Jan Halen, two fierce competitors going side by side, argy-bargy down in turn one, and that cut down that left rear tire on the Porsche.
Just a moment ago, we had the onboard shot from the Conquest Racing Ferrari. That's a team that has finished second in back-to-back races now, looking for a breakthrough win. But Alessandro Balzan, who will start this car, and more importantly, his young and relatively inexperienced co-driver Manny Franco, they appear to be on the fast track to success.
They do, but they're deep in the pack. They're third from riding shotgun on the back end of this field. So Alessandro did not feel it in qualifying yesterday. He certainly got up on the wheel yesterday, so close to the victory, but a nice runner-up finishes. Pair of seconds so far this championship season for that group, Conquest Racing. Good championship points, but they'd love to break through and get that big win.
As mentioned, the top pro class car starts back in the 7th spot. That will be Mario Farnbacher for Racer's Edge. That's another team that probably thinks one got away yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he saw the opportunity on the restart, really went to attack McAleer there, but just that fine margin, right, with the standing water still on the outside off the racing line, just with too much through turns 4, 5 and 6, and it was a big moment for someone like Mario Smith not to be able to hang on to it. That was what he was dealing with, but he'll be frustrated by that. It's all in. We saw Auburn go all in as well, trying to make a move in the BMW on the final lap of the race as well.
Plenty of drivers hanging it all out yesterday. We expect more of the same here in race 2 of the weekend today in New Orleans. Second of 2 formation laps underway behind the Toyota GR Supra safety car, official vehicle of SRO America. On the Rova pole for race 2 of the weekend, VHC Valentin Haseklo, the French driver, lone French driver in the field in a city that has a very French flair to it, that's for sure. Fantastic performance from him in qualifying. He'll have the Belgian Jan Halen starting alongside. Then we go to the second row. John Edwards, BMW factory driver, starts in the 3rd spot. Colin Brown for CrowdStrike Racing by Riley starts 4th. Corey Lewis had a great day today alongside his teammate from DXDT Racing, Brian Sellers. The best weekend in recent memory for DXDT is underway. Mario Farnbacher on the pole, and the pro class starts all the way back in 7th. He'll have the rapid Canadian Daniel Morad, who gave us that track preview moments ago, starting in 8th. Spencer Pumpelly starts 9th. They had a penalty yesterday for a jumped start. Otherwise, that ACI Motorsports car might have had a shot for a better result. Ryan Dial starts the Triarci Competizione Ferrari in 10th. Then you find Stephen McAleer. He won overall yesterday. He's going to have to come from deep in the pack to repeat that feat. Similar story for Oberlin, who finished 3rd to McAleer and the Conquest car. He starts all the way back in 12th. Trenton Estep from MDK Motorsports, and Adam Carroll, the Irish veteran with S's Racing, starting 13th and 14th. There you find Alessandro Balzan, runner-up yesterday, starts 15th today. Elliott Skier for Wright Motorsports, a team that was right at the pointy end in Pro-Am, all the way back in 16th. And then the lone Am class entry with the veteran Andy Pilgrim starting the real-time racing Bartone Brothers Racing Mercedes back in 17th. It's a great field, so much talent, especially as you see the pros starting this race in those Pro-Am lineups here today for race number 2. That goes a long way to explaining why this field is all mixed up, but for those pro entries, you have to take a circumspect approach to this start to this race, starting deeper in the pack than you would expect, but the race should come to you when the driver change occurs at the midway point. Here comes the field into the VP acceleration zone. VHC Valentin Haseklo on pole for TRG in the Aston Martin. He starts to accelerate away. Quickly, Halen falls back in line, then dumps back to the left because John Edwards had a head of steam built up in the ST Racing BMW. Edwards slides to the inside. He'll try and grab second spot into turn 1, and Colin Brown looking to follow him through.
Yeah, so close there again between the 0-4 and the 45. They just seem to escape making contact there, but they're running line astern. Great start for John Edwards. Look for the lead, but up to second. Look at Mario Farnbacher to the outside. Two DXDT Mercedes side by side. Lewis the meat in the sandwich there. Brian Sellers trying to make a move.
These are the cars that came together yesterday. That resulted in the cut tire for Haylen. They keep it clean this time. We've got cars scampering off track to avoid contact. 3 wide in a very tight part of this racetrack. Somehow they all come out clean on the other side.
Yeah, Bill Orban, I think, aboard the number 94 car, so that's not the ideal start for those teams. Obviously had a great run here yesterday, podium finish. Look for the win now. They're riding shotgun on this field.
Yeah.
There you see Mario Farnbacher. Didn't have the best start. He's mired a little bit here.
The good news is he had a buffer to the rest of his class. I'm not sure he's thinking about that right now. As we go on board with Elliott Skier, he's had a decent start from towards the back.
Yeah, this is the Pro-Am winning car from yesterday, so he too did not have a good qualifying run, starting deep in the pack. Decent start. Oh, that was a late breaker move. You could hear the drivetrain almost going into lockup mode as he hit the brakes really hard there for turn 13. Great start for Frenchie here from the pole.
That nickname coined by the late and very much missed Paul Terry, who teamed with Valentin Haseclo at Indianapolis in Pirelli GT4 America a few years ago. And in Paul's famous words, Frenchie can drive. He's out in front of this field. He's got a lead of 0.6 of a second.
Things settling in here. On board now with John Edwards. Turn 1. Back up through the gears when the tires go just flat out through here. Turn 2. Keeping that Aston Martin in his sights. Second gear through this one. Daniel Morad alluded to traction limited coming off that corner, just trying to get the power down early without spinning up the horsepower there with those rear wheels on that BMW. Saw Valentin this morning. I said, how's the prep for today? He said, perfect. I saw my first alligator. It's been a dream. So he was excited about his morning so far.
Sounds like we'll see a lot more of him before the year is up, at least a handful more events. Ross Gunn sharing that seat with VHC over the course of this season, alongside Derek DeBoer, the full season member of that TRG team.
Jan Halen settling in here. This Wright Motorsports Porsche has shown great pace. Led a couple of the practice sessions earlier this weekend. Just missed out on the pole. Front row start, but Edwards got the leap on him. You could see that the Aston Martin took off. Jan Halen immediately tried to protect, but Edwards had established himself to the inside and easily made that move down into turn 1 on the start of this race.
You were right about the poor start for Farnbacher. He dropped 3 positions, make that 2 positions in class, several overall. McAleer now leads in the pro ranks, running 9th overall. Trenton Estep had a great start from MDK. He runs in 2nd in pro, 10th in the overall running order.
I'm not sure if Mario got bumped wide in turn 1, because we saw him making moves sort of like halfway through the first lap, and he's still mired deep in the pack, so something was missing. He either got swamped at the start or got bumped out wide in turn 1. This is our winner from yesterday overall. Stephen McAleer now on board, the finishing driver yesterday. What a start to the year. 2 wins out of 3.
It was such a well-judged drive by Stephen in his final stint, wasn't it? He had a lot of pressure coming from behind. Several different challengers all took their shot. None of them hit, though. Just
amazing racecraft. He really did a beautiful job of withstanding that pressure, but right now he's got really deep in this pro field here at the start of this race. Ryan Dial in front of him. They didn't have a great start to this weekend. Got hit in opening practice here on Thursday. Been on the back foot ever since.
CBW Racing, Community Beer Works, longtime partner of McAleer's co-driver, Eric Filgaris, Tom Kopczynski, passionate racer himself. He's put a lot of resources to help promote Eric Filgaris up the ranks. Got hooked up with Stephen McAleer last year in Pirelli GT4 America, and they won the Silver Class Championship in a rout.
Yeah, 11 victories on the season, just dominant. Same team, same group, just jumped up to the class with immediate effect, winning on debut. Out front, VHC. Showing the field away right now. He said he had a ton of understeer in the car yesterday on full fuel, so that allowed them to make some changes for the start of this one. Full fuel load, the car's a lot heavier. It's going to change the balance and the center point of the race car and where the downforce has developed a little bit.
Just behind John Edwards. What a great addition to the championship, a driver with impeccable credentials. Driving for the BMW factory for many, many years. Looked like he was on the fast track to IndyCar racing, part of that lost generation of American open wheel talent in the late aughts that just never got a crack at big-time open wheel racing, but has made a home and a career for himself in sports cars, and BMW has been a big part of that in recent years.
Yeah, he made them over to the BMW factory squad when Joey Hand got the opportunity to do DTM and basically shared that car for that season alongside Dirk Mueller. As you said, great single-seater career, star Mazda, former Atlantic champion, and one of the best in GT3.
It's just right on board with John Edwards through the S's.
Busy they are really trying to hug those curbs, get the car to hook through some of these apexes.
And it is bumpy. This track is rough. That braking zone, you heard Daniel Morad talk about it in the Fanatec track preview. The braking zone for turn 13 is exceedingly bumpy. I talked to drivers throughout the paddock, and several of them said it's not Sebring, but it's not far off. There are some rough spots around this place.
It is a workout. It is a big-time workout around here. You're looking at a 40 to 50-minute stint for these drivers here this afternoon. Mandatory pit stop halfway through. 4 tire change, driver change, a little bit of refueling going on as well. On board here with Elliott Skier. What a start to the season this team has had.
No question about it. Adam Adelson making that jump to GT3 racing, and he brings along his longtime coach and very close friend, Elliott Skier, as co-driver as well as mentor. Won a couple times already this year, and certainly appeared to be in a position to challenge again or as the season goes along, but not the best qualifying effort from Elliott, looking to recover from that. Same story here for Mario Farnbacher, who did not get a good start. Frankly, didn't have a good finish to the race yesterday either, finishing up in the gravel trap, but looking to amend for some of those miscues, which you don't talk about much when you talk about a driver of the caliber of Mario Farnbacher.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by CrowdStrike, AWS, and Fanatec.
There is the leader, TRG, the team, Kevin Buckler's squad that famously won overall at the 24 Hours of Daytona in a GT car up against the prototypes over a decade ago. Been around for a long time, running at a high level for a long time, and Derek DeBoer has been a part of that program for, well, it seems like basically his entire career at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Derek DeBoer, he and Kevin Buckler are great friends. They work hard with partnerships to make these programs happen. And as he said, he's been looking for this opportunity. He'd only driven a GT3 spec car once before in his career up until the start of this season. So it's wonderful to see. And he had a really solid job here yesterday with the podium run.
By the way, if you look at the leaderboard on the left, you'll see Jan Halen's name all the way down in 17th and last. Drive-through penalty was issued. Race start procedure, something went amiss there.
He crossed lanes. Basically, you got to stay in your column till you get to the stripe, and I think he realized he didn't get a good jump, and he was trying to inch over on John Edwards there, and you're supposed to stay in your column.
It's been a frustrating start to the year for that team.
Oh, what a weekend. They didn't have a great weekend here last year either, so this has not been a friendly place for them. Have had pace, but not the luck or the results.
10th and a 6th last year. Had a pair of 4ths at Sonoma. Nothing to show for it really yesterday, and it looks like it's going to be a tough row to hoe for Jan Halen and Charlie Luck, serving that penalty early. Checking in here on Mario Farnbacher. Oh, in front of him, that's Estep going wide. Just drops a wheel off, and that cost him 2 places, maybe a third.
Yeah, you're looking to the right there for that final apex to get on that front straightaway, and if you just drift a little bit wide, you're kind of catching the edge of the road with your peripheral vision.
Can you guess that Alessandro Balzan is Italian? You can see him talking with his hands there on the left-hand side of our shot. Estep goes defensive. Balzan, a very circumspect driver, not going to take too many risks.
Well, he's frustrated after his qualifying run that he's this deep in the field, and he's probably feeling, you know what, I should have been able to get by there, so I'm not sure if he's just frustrated with how Espert came back on the road in front of him. Estep's in trouble. His car looks really, really unstable into these brake zones. Just losing the rear end on the car.
Trenton had a pretty good stint yesterday. Seth Lucas looked like he had his hands full at times when he started that car. But you're right. Just to the naked eye, you can tell Trenton's got his hands full, and it's going to be a long time before we get to pit lane and they can do anything to help the handling of that machine. The lead has grown to 1.2 seconds. Valentin Haseclo, the Aston factory driver, leading the BMW factory man, John Edwards. There's the top two coming through 16. TRG Aston, ST Racing BMW. This is the team that gave BMW its first global victory for this M4 GT3. Did that last year.
Edwards is catching him. Took 0.6 of a second out of that gap at the front, so he is on a flyer right now.
Let's take a look at this. This happened just a few moments ago. Trenton Estep got crossed up, slipped wide, cost him a couple of spots, and very nearly Alessandro Balzan got by as well, but ultimately couldn't quite get alongside.
Curious to know if VHC's balance has gone away from him a little bit aboard this Aston Martin, because Edwards is definitely closing at this phase of the race.
No question about it. Looked like John was sitting back, gauging the strengths and weaknesses of that Aston, preserving his own Pirelli P0s. Now he's got the pace.
I think they made an adjustment with the TRG Aston Martin. As I said, spoke to Valentin earlier this morning, said he had big understeer on full tank. When you put the weight in the car, basically the bag settles down, almost like power boats through the corners. It picks up the nose with the extra weight on board. So they would have adjusted for that for the start of this race. The key is not going too far, otherwise it's going to outweight the car the other way and make it a little bit loose through some of the corners.
As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, biggest mover in the race so far, Elliott Skier, up 6 spots. That's overall from his starting position. Runs right behind this car, Mario Farnbacher, who has dropped several spots, and right now finds himself running right behind Stephen McAleer and not making much progress, although these two did have a little duel developing until Mario had his off in race 1 at the end of the race yesterday.
Yeah, they did. It was certainly a great battle, and Mario seemed to be a little bit more lively in those sketchier conditions, but it's easy when you're chasing. McAleer had the lead. You don't want to throw it off the road by going too quick and feeling out those conditions first. You have that guinea pig in front of you if you're chasing.
Amanda, what are you hearing from the Racer's Edge team?
Well, and Ashton Harrison is definitely watching this battle between McAleer and Farnbacher right now, and then after the miscue that Mario had yesterday, what was his mindset ahead of this race?
Oh, for sure, redemption. You know, it's not like Mario to have really any incidents at all. So, you know, he wishes that wouldn't have happened. The rest of his team do as well, but it is what it is. Sometimes it's racing, and he was doing a great job, and, you know, we're always fighting for the lead. So he's doing a great job now. I mean, it's unfortunate that we were hit again. Actually, I think it's the same car that hit us at Sonoma, an out-of-class car, and it's put us back. But he's doing a great job making up the ground that we've lost, and he's, as far as I can tell, on the bumper of the leading car, and that's our goal.
That's right. The battle is with McAleer there for the lead in the Pro Class, down at 8th and 9th overall. Do expect to see many of these Pro Class cars starting to cycle towards the front when the pit stop happens and the AMs and the Pro-Am lineups climb aboard.
Yeah, so as we suspected, that poor opening lap was due to an incident down in turn 1, I believe. Certainly the first couple of corners of the races where he must have lost that ground. Up front, look at this. Edwards now pushing for the lead.
At BMW with the Starry Night livery right there in the slipstream. No pressure out the back. You can see that from the rear-facing camera right to the right-hand side of the dashboard.
Little twitch there from the Aston as he tries to get that road down and hit the apex. Samantha Tan watches progress of her teammate Edwards.
Newly named BMW brand representative, Samantha Tan. Saw a post from her on social media yesterday. Just didn't feel like she did the job she wanted to do in her stint. Didn't seem like that car was necessarily super happy in the wet, but she's got her eyes focused firmly on getting a good result here today.
Well, Well, she had a decent start to the race, then she faded. I'm not sure if she had a moment or something, but certainly dropped down the order a little bit, and that frustrates you, particularly when you're trying to hand the car off to your pro driver to do something with it and get you up into that podium spot. They still rebounded nicely, actually finished 4th in the end in class.
In some ways, is it better to be dissatisfied leaving the race Saturday, knowing you've got a race again Sunday, instead of having several weeks to stew on it?
Yeah, I mean, that is the beauty of a doubleheader weekend. If you have a bad day, you don't have long to wait to try and get that redemption, as Ashton Harrison alluded to with Mario's mindset for today's race.
Amazing how usable these curves are.
Patient Edwards is there, super smooth driver. He's always displayed amazing racecraft and feel throughout the course of his career.
Mentioned that Atlantic Series championship back in '09, won the Star Mazda title in '08. He's done a lot of racing in Europe in his career. Native of Louisville, Kentucky.
Avid pilot in his own Cirrus plane.
Class wins on his CV at both the 24 Hours of Daytona and Petit Le Mans. He's in 2020 and 2013, respectively.
You hate to call a driver unlucky, but when I look at the BMW squad over the last handful of years, if there was ever a black cloud, it seemed to be with John's car, whichever co-driver he had that particular year. They haven't caught a lot of breaks, let's put it that way. Luck has not been on their side. Sometimes you make your own luck, I know, but they've had a few victories along the way that have eluded them, not through their own fault.
In prime position, though, right now, running 2nd overall and in the Pro-Am class. 18 minutes, well, just over 17 minutes into this race. Mandatory pit window comes 5 minutes either side of the halfway mark. Still a ways before we get there. I suspect we might still see some development. Some cars maybe getting stronger relative to others as we get deeper into this stint, just because of how pronounced tire wear is around this track.
Colin Brown is displaying that. He's been 3 to 4 tenths quicker than the 2 leaders those last couple of laps.
Now, that was the direction I was going to go with that comment, actually. You could see him starting to enter the picture not so long ago. It was really a 2-car shot coming down the front straightaway, but now you do start to see that Crown Strike Mercedes enter into the picture. It's down to 1.7 seconds now from Brown to Edwards. Will the team be telling John this?
He'll see it. He'll see it in that rear-facing camera, and he'll know it, and he knows that he needs to put the pressure on because Colin is coming in a hurry. He's now starting to heat the pressure on the Aston Martin. And another twist to the dynamic potentially evolving here is that Edwards and Colin Brown are good mates. They live close together in the Charlotte area. Both of their wives expecting babies here this summer.
This is the contact that we heard Ashton Harrison referring to. The contact, oh, that was Pumpelly right into the door, the right side door of Mario Farnbacher. I did think I saw some battle scars on that right side door. That explains that.
He'd already lost a few positions before that, so he didn't have a good start as well. I think that was sort of like just inside the top 10. He's qualified 7th.
The battle for the lead continues to hot up. Valentin Haseklo in the Aston Martin. John Edwards giving chase.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
Here we go, battle for the lead down the front straightaway at NOLA Motorsports Park. This is as close as the BMW has been since the start of the race. Edwards looked to the right, came back to the left. Ultimately, not a big enough gap to go for it, at least not this early.
Pretty evenly matched there. The BMW may have a little bit more straightaway speed, but now Valentin Haseklo has to defend down into turn 3. This is going to allow Colin Brown in that CrowdStrike Mercedes to close in on this battle side by side. Edwards just gives the Aston Martin enough room.
The two might have made just a tad of bit of contact there. Edwards trying to make the outside lane work. Can't stay alongside. Now we'll take a look to the inside here. Into the braking zone. Tough place to get by. Entering the S's.
Yeah, watch
and
Colin
then
Brown
brings
though.
Colin.
Watch Colin Brown. Edwards did not get a good run there off of turn 5.
Able to fend off Brown for now. Oh, but Colin smells blood in the water. He knows this could be a chance.
He really could. He could see that evolving. Edwards had his elbows out there trying to wrestle the lead away from the Aston Martin. Don't think they touched, but he just had a big moment there in turn 5. Couldn't get back to the gas pedal, and that allowed Colin to have a big run on him.
Aston, BMW, Mercedes, 3 different brands at the front of this field. Behind them runs Daniel Morad in another Mercedes from TR3 Racing. He's had a good opening stint. Corey Lewis from DXDT and Brian Sellers running 5th and 6th. All of those cars, and all the way down to Ryan Dial, those are all Pro-Am cars running 1 through 7. Then you get to the top 2 in the Pro class, McAleer and Farnbacher.
I suspect right now that maybe Edwards and Colin Brown are pretty evenly matched. I think Edwards' pace is being stymied a little bit by the Aston Martin, just with that aero wash that you're going to get. I think if he could get the lead away from the Aston, he may have a few tenths in hand over Valentin at this phase of the race. But Valentin is managing that lead very well, keeping it clean, but pretty hard racing at the same time.
Seclo, a multi-time champion for Aston in GT4 racing, won the French National Championship as well as a class championship in GT4 European Series. Just a couple of years ago, got on their radar, went through the Aston Martin Racing Academy, and fully got promoted into the factory driver ranks. You can see why, even with the car that may not be quite to the same level of pace, at least at this stage of the race, is the BMW that's chasing him. He's not an easy target. Riding on board with Edwards, up over those curves, through the S's. It continues to give chase, but for now, Haseclo does have the measure of him and has a lead of a half a second. No change at the front of the field, still TRG. Leading ST Racing, leading Riley Motorsports. Aston from BMW, from Mercedes.
Edwards has been piling the pressure on here the last 3 or 4 laps, but hasn't been able to rest the lead. Now he's got a bit of a gap over Colin Brown sitting there in 3rd in that CrowdStrike Racing entry by Riley. Still feel that BMW has a little bit of pace, and now they're managing these tires, but as they're starting to get towards the halfway point of their particular stint, then they can just gauge it. They don't have to hand the tires off to their co-driver. They'll get a fresh set of skins to work with.
This is Daniel Morad, who's had a quiet run to 4th, at least that we have seen, running similar lap times to the 3 cars ahead of him. Daniel sharing this car with Ziad Gondor.
A solid run, started the race in 9th position overall, has moved up to P4 overall and in class. The Pro-Am entries fill out the top 7. Then McAleer continues to lead in Pro, indicated on the graphic there with the white box with the number inside.
They were 5th yesterday in class, 9th overall. This is the Triarsi Competizione Ferrari. Right in the middle of this train, you see Wetherill and Dial. Dial's the one driving it right now, giving chase to his former team. In fact, that is a car he has driven in the past for DXDT Racing at Mercedes. Right now, it's Brian Sellers, another veteran GT3 driver.
Yeah, they've been teammates before, not in the same car, but they certainly know each other very well. Good respect between the two, I would think. But they're pros and they're paid to deliver, so friendships go out the window immediately when you're behind the wheel and on the racetrack.
It's a great story just to have this Triarsi car on the track. They were hit in one of the testing sessions earlier in the weekend. Had to do some serious repairs, didn't have all the parts they needed on site, so they actually packed up a whole spare chassis, sent it from their shop in Florida. It arrived in the middle of the night, sometime between late Thursday and the wee hours of the morning on Friday. They got the repairs done in time to get back on track on Friday. Yesterday was a tough day, admittedly, but showing some better pace here today. Running deep inside the top 10 in 7th right now.
Here is Orblin back on the rebound there. You see the white BMW in the mix. Got around Balzan now, putting the pressure on. Estep right in front of him.
Balzan's not exactly going quietly into the night, is he? He's fighting back on the outside, and he might have a chance, although it's 3 wide, and I don't know if he knows it.
Ooh, this is going to get tight.
Yep.
It's going to get really tight. Not enough room. Oh, what a move by Balzan. I don't think Oblin's going to give it to him, and Estep comes back as well. That was feisty stuff there. 3 cars trying to go in the space of 2.
Seen a fired up Alessandro Balzan already in this race today. We were riding on board just 10 minutes or so ago, and he was gesturing with intent.
Yes. Adam Carroll right in the mix there as well. Good to see that 19 Mercedes showing some pace here today. Oblin has taken off.
Yeah.
He certainly got the bit between his teeth.
Well, that's not a surprise. He was challenging at the very front, had a chance to go for the lead. Briefly had it. It only lasted about 50 feet.
Balzan, big slide there through turn 15. Just hasn't been happy. I mean, I know he had a solid run stepping into the car after his teammate Manny Franco had delivered it in strong track position yesterday, but had a poor qualifying run and hasn't really made the progress that we'd expect here today from one of the dominant cars yesterday.
Then might mean let's preserve this race car if you're Alessandro Balzan and let Manny Franco make the difference, because Manny has been awfully quick this weekend. Here's a move. This is for the lead in pro. Farnbacher to the inside of McAleer.
Wow.
We saw how hard that was to do yesterday. McAleer survived several sallies and never did relent, but finally Farnbacher did get the job done.
It was an awesome move and a great first stint here to get roughed up. I think maybe a couple of times in the opening lap to rebound and get the class lead back. And Ashton Harrison said his teammate Murray's going to have redemption here today. Up front, battle intensifies right now. Once again, Edwards close, but not as close as he was 3 or 4 laps ago when he almost had a pass made for the lead.
What do you make of the way this battle has developed? It looked like Edwards was there. It looked like he clearly had the pace advantage for a time, but since he made that bid, he's dropped off a bit.
He has. So I think Valentine has done a nice job of managing things out front. I think he's got decent straightaway speed as George Kurtz looks on, seeing what his teammate Colin Brown can deliver track position-wise for him this afternoon. Didn't have a great day yesterday. Things just didn't go their way. They're looking to rebound as well. Came into this weekend as the championship leaders on the back of a runner-up and a win at Sonoma. But yeah, I think Edwards is, tires have gone off a little bit probably. I think everyone's losing just a few tenths of pace here at this phase. Last lap for the leader was 136.8 versus his fast lap of the day, 135 flat.
Just over 1 hour to go. Valentine Houseclos leading this man, John Edwards, closing in on the pit window. Racing prepares an excellent BMW. John Edwards using that for all it's worth. Just look how much curb he uses through these S's. It's amazing how compliant the BMW is.
Yeah, he literally sits it right on top of that left-hander there, doesn't he? Just puts it firmly on top of the curb.
And these bumps. That curb just goes hopping right over it and basically uses this inside curve to rotate the car.
Yep, just tugs that curb and it just kind of hooks it around the corner. Like Valentine had a little bit of understeer there through turn 15. I think Colin may be hoping that his teammate George Kurtz, could he have the edge on the 2-row car he's going to fight against in Samantha Tan and Derek DeBoer? I think George is getting close to probably getting things ready. 10 minutes away, but you'd have to think that these pros will take it deep into that 10-minute window, so maybe 15 to 20 minutes before he's going to climb on board this Mercedes we're looking at.
That's right. So in 10 minutes and 40 seconds, the pit window will open. Teams must come to pit road then within the next 10 minutes. Their driver change, then they can service the car, fuel and tires. Make any adjustments that you can make in a racing situation from the pit lane. But because, by regulation, it's the pros that start on race 2 of the weekend, we do usually see these cars go as deep into that window as possible before making that switch. Some of the pro lineups might have a little more wiggle room, but it's worth noting in SRO America, it's not an all-pro lineup in the way it is in most instances. You are allowed to have one driver of any categorization, but then one must be silver rated or below. And all of them are silver in this instance. So there can be a greater delta in driver performance within a pro lineup here than you would say see it, for instance, in GT World Challenge Europe.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it fun for the second phase of this race, that there is probably a bigger gap between some of the driver performance, and that can make some of these positions that look pretty solid suddenly susceptible by the time you get to the end of the race.
There is Manny Franco, one of the budding stars of this series. Waiting for his chance. Balzan still stuck back in 13th, so Manny's gonna have some work to do. It looks like he actually just got passed by Adam Carroll. Estep 2 has slipped back. He was in front of this entire train not so long ago.
Yeah, his handling looked to be off a little bit about 10 minutes ago, so he's struggling to hang on to it.
Across the 30-minute threshold, Hasaklo continues to lead Edwards with 58 minutes to go. Taking a close look at this battle further down in the field. Alessandro Balzan, one of the pro class entries, currently 13th overall. Picture in picture, you can see it from Alessandro's view. He's gotten around Estep, but now fallen behind Adam Carroll. That's the Mercedes he's chasing outside that windshield.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around why he's struggling so much, because he certainly was up on the wheel yesterday and had performance. Maybe he's on the qualifying tires that he had yesterday where he struggled to find speed, and there's just a delta in performance there. I mean, typically these Pirelli tires are super consistent set to set, but maybe they're just a little bit off, or the team has made an adjustment. I didn't expect to see him struggling. I expected him to be going forward, not backwards at this phase of the game.
It's a head scratcher, no question about it.
He'll be working with the team right now, trying to communicate what they can maybe do with their tire pressures or something like that for Manny Franco when he jumps on board here. They'd love to have a yellow here before we get to the pit stop window. Just get a little compression of the field. So track position wouldn't change, but certainly the gaps between the cars would. DL having to sniff down the inside on Sellers there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That Ferrari looks like it is in rude health by comparison, and that really is an inversion of what we've seen throughout the weekend, where I think, quite frankly, the Conquest guys seem to have a handle on that car a little bit more so than Triarsi, but that has totally switched here in race 2.
That's what we've seen here a lot this year. I mean, there's no consistency to the results. Yeah, we've had a couple of teams that have had a couple of wins early in the game, but sort of like topsy-turvy grid, as we said at the start of the show here today, compared to the results of yesterday.
And again, this is all setting up to be settled, especially for the Pro-Am lineups, by that less experienced driver. The amateur driver has the weight of responsibility to bring this thing home. The pros' impact on this race, counted in minutes now, not much longer until that window opens up.
It's going to be close, and but as we say, typically there's a pretty good gap between the pro drivers' performance and their partners, so you want to maximize that even if it's late in the stint. The tire deck is huge, and you feel that the lower graded driver can climb on board with fresh Pirelli tires, do the undercut, maybe gain some track position, get a jump that way. That is a potential strategy to work with just because of a high deck track. But having said that, I mean, these lap times are still within a couple of seconds of the best we've seen today, so they're not falling off a cliff at all. I think this track is rubbered in, and the tire deck isn't what we saw here on Thursday and Friday during practice.
Well, Amanda reports from the pits that Conquest might be thinking about doing exactly that strategy. Manny Franco has had good pace. Balzan's kind of stuck where he is. So maybe it's worth rolling the dice, especially when you consider they are 4th in their class and losing touch with the cars that they are chasing.
The other thing you do then, you would gain if there was suddenly a safety car come out during that full course, during that pit window, excuse me. So that could throw a bit of a curveball. So maybe worth rolling the dice here today for Eric Bachelot and the whole Conquest Racing team.
Start to answer some of those questions in about 5 minutes when the window opens, although again, don't expect it to be super busy in the early portion of that window. Looking here at Elliott Skier, we're on board. He and Adam Adelson have become a dynamic duo. They certainly were in Pirelli GT4 America, but that is carried over nicely to the Fanatec GT Series. Little twitch of oversteer there.
Well, they're 3 for 3 here at NOLA, right? They won it,
Yeah.
swept last year in GT4 and won here yesterday, so bit of work to do today.
That's for sure, and that all started in qualifying. Elliott Skier did not get the most out of that session, I think it's safe to say. Had them on the back foot, but he's had a great stint driving forward, up to 10th. Now let's hear a little bit more from the pits and Amanda.
Well, as we get ready to the driver changes, just want to go back to yesterday and what different conditions that this is from one day to the next. The driver one that were in these cars yesterday, be it the AM or the other person in the lineup, started this race under wet conditions. I've talked to several of them, being Seth Lucas or Samantha Tan or Scott Smithen. All of them said that the car became so difficult to drive towards the end of their stint as the track ended up drying up. So they'll go into this driver change much different than what they saw yesterday.
And what happened yesterday is the track starts to dry, it just overheats the tread blocks on those wet weather tires, so the car's moving around. It's kind of squirming, it going through the corner, and it really doesn't have a stable platform because it's asking for more grip, and that tire construction is not able to give it to you. So it is tricky for these drivers to get their heads around how the car is feeling in those conditions.
53 minutes, 25 seconds on the clock. We're getting close to that pit window opening. Haseklo starting to build a margin. The battle, though, starting to brew for second.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Pirelli, eBoost Super Fuel, and Rova Motor Oil.
This is the overall leader, the pole sitter, the HC Valentin Haseklo, who did come under some pressure from John Edwards about midway through this stint, but withstood that challenge and now has a 1.3 second margin. And Edwards, he's had to focus on what's happening behind him. Colin Brown is there.
Yeah, looks like Edwards is maybe now struggling for balancing the car. Takes a very shallow angle there, very protective. That's going to hurt his speed coming off as well. Colin's going to get a bit of a run on him. Tough to get it done by the time you get to turn 5. It looks like Edwards' car is suddenly maybe struggling a little bit for balance as we get very deep into this run. Potentially 10, 12 minutes left here. You're going to have to think they'd want to keep Edwards out there as long as they possibly can, unless the tire performance just falls off dramatically here. Got to be ready. You want your co-driver suited and booted, ready to go. Team ready to go. Tires in the oven till the last possible moment, but have those mechanics ready to grab them just in case you make a last-minute call.
Mentioned that those two, Edwards and Brown, they're close friends. How much have they really raced against each other, though? It seems to me that they would have been
typically in different classes
with different types of cars.
Absolutely.
Not like they necessarily know each other's tendencies too much at this stage.
There is a, I've talked about it with like Ricky and Jordan Taylor.
Right.
I mean, there is a sensitivity to a friendship or a relationship or wherever it may be, but these guys are so tuned in. I mean, if there's an opportunity, Colin's going to shove it down the inside, and John knows that, and he's going to defend as vigorously as he would if it was someone else in this field. You have to put all of that to one side and just focus in doing your job.
The window will be available to the leaders. Well, I was going to say this next time around. I'm not sure that's actually the case. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be on the next lap. In any event, again, it's not that the overall leader gets a first chance at it. It's whoever is there when the window opens, you get to duck on in, and that could be to your advantage.
It could be someone like Morad or someone, but he's probably going to stay out there.
Yeah, that's true. Pit window about to open up at NOLA Motorsports Park. VHC for TRG. That is the leader of the pack. French driver about to turn it over here sometime in the next 10 minutes and 8 seconds to Derek DeBoer. think they might actually get a crack at coming into the pit lane here this time if they want to, but we don't expect that to be the case for this top group.
No, they'll stay out. Oh, no, they don't. Here comes the leader. Boy, I'm surprised at this decision from Kevin Buckler in the group there. He's shown
100%.
great pace, had the track position.
Well, TRG rolling the dice. Might be a Mike Johnson call, could be a Kevin Buckler call. In any event, they come in as the pit window opens at first time of offering. Maybe they do think that new Pirellis will make a big difference at this stage. Puts a lot of responsibility onto that man. Derek DeBoer is about to climb aboard.
Given like probably half a dozen laps by our pole sitter, who's been the fastest man here this weekend. So that is really showcasing a lot of faith in Derek DeBoer's ability to get behind the wheel of this car and get up to speed immediately. Certainly he's going to have better bite from a fresher set of Pirelli tires, but nonetheless, big demands on the driver right now. Crew trying to regroup here, lost the wheel socket there.
79 seconds sees the pit lane delta, pit in to pit out, including service. You have to be pretty darn perfect to get to that. It is an aggressive delta. Not sure how much that bobble is going to cost them, if at all.
I think there's normally about a 5 to 10 second buffer in terms of the car will maybe sit for a few seconds before they release it. Everything is perfect.
Interesting that RS1 elects to be an early caller to pit lane.
Right there, about 4 seconds hold there. So that was probably a clean stop and the car was held for about 4 seconds. So if you have a bobble, and we saw it there with that wheel socket, this 007.
There goes DeBoer. Here comes Eric Filgaris out. And the pit lane is a busy place. Pompelli is in, giving up to Pedro Torres.
Edwards is in from the lead. Colin Brown stays out. So undercut versus overcut. This will be a good example here with the 38 team coming in before the 04. Samantha Tan's got to get up on the wheel quickly versus Colin Brown staying out there on hot but well-worn Pirelli tires.
Undercut, though, gets that little extra boost by virtue of the fact that you do have tire warmers here. There's no build-up lap, really, on these tires coming out of the pits like you might see in other North American championships.
Yeah, I mean, if the driver performance was equal, certainly the undercut works. You're going to, particularly on a track that has high tire degradation, but you got to then factor in Colin's experience versus Samantha's and potential pace.
Samantha getting those belts tightened. Little help there from John Edwards. Drove a really good stint today. Looked like he might have had a chance to go for the lead. Here's Derek DeBoer. This is the car that was the erstwhile leader.
Just wants to find his rhythm right now, under no pressure whatsoever from people around him, but certainly the pressure is on to attack. And here we see, this is where the overcut has worked. Okay, so this is the overcut working. Edwards in laps faster than Derek DeBoer's out laps, so the 38 gains track position right now, but now Samantha's got to get up to speed. So even though the tires are in the oven, they're not optimum like we're now going to see with these Pirellis on board the 007. A little wiggle there from Derek DeBoer. He can see the opportunity in front of him. He's got to go chase Samantha while the opportunity is there before she starts to settle in.
Exactly. Samantha isn't in a rhythm yet. Derek's got one lap. He's probably in that rhythm now, and he has his target acquired. Let's keep an eye on the TRG Aston. What kind of ground can he make up on Samantha Tan? Looks like Brown has stayed out again. Morad, Lewis, and Sellers as well. Dial. Vast majority of the teams have not yet made their stop.
That's why it's a surprise to get Valentina out of that lead machine so early. Okay, we know they lost track position to the 38, but they're kind of in the middle ground in terms of that strategy. Others are being more aggressive by keeping their pros in the car on those much more worn Pirelli tires. So will the 007 lose even more track position by the time everyone's finished their pit stops? Time will tell.
This is now the car that has cycled to the lead. Colin Brown finally with some clear track to work with.
Yeah, and his lap times are impressive. Only 0.6 of a second off his best lap of the day. It is hammer time for Colin Brown. Bill Riley's got on the horn. It is time to go.
This is what they're banking on. What they do not want to see is a full course yellow. That's the thing that will sink this strategy. Otherwise, it looks like they're in the catbird seat. He'll stay out again.
Yeah, he can do another couple of laps if they really want to push the margins.
You just must be in the pit lane. By the time the window closes, you can still then progress and do your service.
Another great lap, even quicker than his previous. He's only 4/10 off his best lap of the day.
Wow.
He's preserved those tires. Maybe that was the thinking all along. Don't push those leaders, just save your tires, Colin, and then we'll go for the overcut.
Well, presumably this should be enough for them to cycle through to the lead. How much longer do you keep them out in that danger zone?
Well, you're only gambling one more lap potentially, so they can do this lap and come in, or they can do one more afterwards, and then time would be up in terms of pushing it any further.
Another thing to keep in mind, there is a car ahead. That's Eric Filgueras, who should have some pace, but that could compromise Colin a little bit, and that changes the equation.
And you have to be willing to adjust on the fly. You may be locked in, yeah, we're going to go 2 more laps, Colin, but if suddenly he comes up on some traffic that's stymieing that potential progress, you'd make the call. Oberlin in.
Yep.
Good rebound. Got involved in that little schmozzle over in turn 4, got in the grass, but nice rebound. Good performance by this team this weekend.
I think this is a car we're going to want to keep an eye on. Chandler Hull is driving with a lot of confidence right now at this stage in his career. Want to see what he can do to continue to make their way up through the pack. Let's see, what does the leader do? Does Brown stay out?
Does. Maximizing this stint for Colin Brown. This will be the last lap for him to stay out.
But again, the risk is, should there be a safety car?
Look at his lap times, though, 135. That would, I mean, boy, that would be so close to try. You could maybe squeak 2 more, looking at the clock and the lap times that they're running, but that would be marginal.
Is it worth the risk? Or is the job already done based on what he's done so far?
Well, by running these fast lap times, that's actually making that window of opportunity a little bit bigger in terms of squeaking even more. Could that be the ace up their sleeve as we see the 21 now hitting pit lane?
This is a team that was considering coming in earlier in the cycle, elected to keep balls on out. I suppose when those in front of him came in, that gave him some clear air to work with.
Yeah, no one else pushing it that tight. Because the problem is, if you have a little bobble, you have a little half spin or anything, suddenly you're going to have a penalty and a problem.
The XDT crew going to work. It'll be Scott Smithson climbing aboard.
Solid weekend for this group. I think they'll be happy. They were frustrated last year, and certainly at Sonoma, not the sort of start of the year they wanted, but look at the clock here. So yeah, he's got enough time here. He could squeak another lap if he wants to. What do they elect to do? Do they roll the dice any further? Yes, they do.
All right. Pushing the advantage. There comes Morad. He couldn't do it. Could he? Yeah, he might have been able to. TR3 not willing to take that risk.
Well, you look at the clock here. If he did like anything under 140, it would have been okay. So Colin's in good shape unless something goes awfully awry here on this in lap.
Corey Lewis about to turn that car over to Jeff Burton. In comes Skier.
These guys had to come.
Yeah.
As you could see the time on the board, they couldn't do one more lap and be outside of that 40 minutes to go mark.
Here's the TR3 crew. It'll be Zion Gondor with that colorful helmet. Getting some help with the belts there. Daniel Morad making sure everything's where it needs to be. You don't want to get in there and find out you're sitting on a belt. You got to get back up. And
quick and efficient. No panic. Sense of calmness to it all.
Is some traffic on this lap here for Colin.
Yeah, this is not ideal. This may be hurting his in-lap performance.
These are the 2 that we're going to be keeping an eye on relative to that CrowdStrike Mercedes. They were running ahead before the pit window.
Samantha's doing a really nice job. Her last lap was a second quicker than Derek. Gandor momentarily stalls out of pit lane. That's not ideal. So that overcut that the 38 car did on the 007 is keeping them that track position. Thing here.
Well,
so Gandor's coming out. He's going to gain the track, and this is all the benefit of staying out that little bit longer.
Exactly. That was on the basis of what Morad did behind the wheel. Looks like Brown into the pit lane in plenty of time, had a few seconds to spare.
About 10 seconds probably on the board before he hit the timeline for pit lane. And that's all you had to do, as you alluded to earlier, Ryan. You don't have to have the service done, just be in pit lane.
Gondor cycles ahead of Tan and DeBoer. This is the car to keep an eye on. Can it be a clean stop for Riley? If so, it should be George Kurtz who inherits the lead.
Yeah.
And by a margin, I would suspect.
Yeah, those laps are really good. Colin did an awesome job there. His last lap was a 36.3 again, and 7/10 off. So his last lap at speed, 7/10 off his fast lap of the day. Great strategy there by Bill Riley and the boys.
Do those kind of laps on used tires, especially around this place where tire wear is significant. That's why these pros get the big bucks.
And that's where the management came in. We saw him get close to the leaders, but he didn't really engage, did he, Colin Brown, in terms of that, like 20, 30 minutes into this race when the front three were very compressed.
All right, we see the team waiting. The engine fires. And he leaves. Now we see, where is that car relative to the TR3 Mercedes? Is it even close? I don't think it is.
I think Gandor's probably on the front straightaway, but a ways back.
So George Kurtz leaves the pit lane as the leader. Gondor comes across the line now. Behind him is Tan, then DeBoer. So the strategy of staying out as long as you can, chancing those full course yellows, proved to be the way to go today.
Well, it's huge. I mean, essentially you're looking at a 10-minute difference, right, between the 007 bringing Valentino early versus the 04 maximizing Colin Brown's stint time.
Samantha has caught Ziad. That's going to be a battle for second, but it all happens well behind this man, George Kurtz, looking for yet another win. Remember, they won overall at Sonoma. They're in a position they might be able to do that again. A massive lead at the line, 13.6 seconds over second place.
Solid strategy. Now it's down to George to just hit his marks. No pressure from behind whatsoever.
A little further behind this group, we're going to have a good fight, I think, for the Pro Class lead with Harrison and Filgaris. They're just a few tenths apart from one another. But here we have a battle brewing for second, on board with the Canadian Samantha Tan.
Done a really nice job. Great direction with having a pro like John Edwards as part of the driver lineup, and also Nick Johnson, great racer himself, so much experience, mentoring her, coaching her over the last couple of years as well.
Didn't look like she had the most stable of platforms underneath her, trying to go to power out of 16, but she is in the slipstream. It does look like she's closing in. How hard will Ziad Gondor fight? This is for second. Samantha Tan to the inside. Can she get it slowed down? Yes, she can, but Gondor fights back.
Yeah, just needed to manage that a little bit better with the braking technique. Certainly committed to the inside. Gondor didn't fight it, just waited. Pretty cool, calm customer Gondor we've seen in various racing engagements over the last couple of seasons. This has allowed Derek DeBoer to close in. So for Samantha Tan, I think she really has to try and take advantage of her pace right now and get that track position. Otherwise, Derek's going to give her a hard time.
36 minutes to go. George Kurtz leads by 9.8 seconds over Ziad Gondor, but the battle for second, third, and fourth is fierce.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Mercedes-AMG, Porsche, and Toyota.
George Kurtz continues to lead. This is a fierce fight, though, for second, third, and fourth in the Pro-Am class and overall, on board with Samantha Tan, who runs third.
Yeah, this is where she's really got to be disciplined. Understand her pace advantage. Pick her moment. This is it. She's tight. She's close. She should whistle by this Mercedes, I feel, before they get to the brake pedal.
Yeah, she was closer than this last time and still almost made the move. She does sweep on past the Mercedes well before the brake zone and takes second spot away. That brings Derek DeBoer into the mix now.
Good stuff. So it took her an extra lap just to be a little bit closer, have an easier time of it. Derek DeBoer now next up in terms of getting that car back into podium potential like he had yesterday. Still curious about their strategy in terms of why they elected to pick Valentin so early. He could have done potentially another 6 or 7 laps there and just increased that margin at the front of the pack over some of the drivers that Derek is now fighting with. But different ways of looking at it. A little bit conservative, but it can certainly turn its way in your direction if there was a yellow during that period. But I think they could have elected to be a bit more aggressive with the strategy there.
Down to Amanda in the pits.
Well, I did test on the VHC nickname to him, and he said that he does like it, so maybe that'll stick here. But I want to go back to the strategy that was to bring you in earlier in your stint. What was the reasoning there?
I am clearly not sure that was part of the plan. At least it's not. It's clearly not ideal right now, so I don't know.
In reflection of your stint, is there something in the car that you were getting feedback of maybe why the team would bring you in?
What's for sure is that I had the fuel alarm on, so I had to box.
That does explain it.
Yeah.
If the fuel alarm is on.
And that means that they must have started the car a little bit aggressive in terms of their fuel load. I mean, weight is time. So if they elected to go a little bit aggressive with how much fuel they put on board to make the car as light as possible during that stint, and then him being out front, no yellows, aggressive pace, that was the reason I feel. That now makes sense to me that they were running out of fuel. That means you're going to put more fuel on board during the stop.
Kurtz leads 10, then it's Gondor and DeBoer. This is the battle right here. Interesting to learn from the pit lane. And Valentin Hasseklo, VHC, had the fuel alarm on. That's why he came in so early in the pit window. And Calvin, that brings back a conversation you had earlier in the broadcast where Valentin was saying maybe the car isn't its best with a full fuel load. So maybe that's why they go aggressive like he was describing.
Yeah, that's a great point. When the car was full of fuel in the second half of the race yesterday, just said I had massive understeer. So when you put fuel on board, typically where it's positioned with the fuel cell, it brings the rear of the car down. And what that does, it almost picks the front of the car up in relation to the rear. And it almost power boosts. When you're going to power through some of the corners, the front end doesn't want to turn. It's getting that aero wash. So I think they made some adjustments to the car itself as this is getting really tight here between Gandor and DeBoer as we watch on. And they also thought, well, maybe let's go a little bit lighter on the fuel load. How much do we need to put on board to get to that halfway point in the race? And I think that caught up with them with Valentin's pace. He got the fuel alarm coming on. He had to pit, and that really hurt their strategy by him having maybe 6-7 laps earlier than Colin Brown did.
Great job by the camera crew to pick up this shot because it illustrates the point I was about to make. This battle between Gondor and DeBoer, it's costing them lap time. The cars chasing are lapping 2, even 3 seconds a lap faster. DeBoer does get by. Got that done into turn number 1. That's 3rd place in the Pro-Am class, and now he'll need to put his head down and scamper because DXDT is coming in force. Both of their cars not so far behind at this stage.
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-car Mercedes battle there for P4 in a moment, I feel, with Gandor and Burton and Smithson. Harrison and Phil Garris, they continue to run relatively close to each other. That gap has not gone any. You look a replay at DeBoer down at the inside. Easy pickings there down at the turn 1 brake zone.
Calvin, the other car to keep an eye on, I'm going to pat my own back for this one. Chandler Hull just ran a 37 flat. It's the fastest car on the track the last time by. Currently back in 10th overall, in a position to be on the podium in Pro, but not that far away from the top 2, which is led by that Acura that just came through the shot. Then this Porsche that was 1st overall yesterday, and they're dealing with some traffic right here. The Pro-Am leaders just up ahead.
Yeah, the pro leading car here of Harrison, the 93 Acura. Phil Garris all over the tail of that Acura right now, looking for a way through. Ashton's got to manage this one very, very carefully with that Mercedes directly in front, not a class car. Just focus on good exit speed off here. Nice job.
Ashton Harrison, who had that dramatic win in the Pro Class Race 2 of the weekend at Sonoma. Looks like we'll have some drama before this one's all said and done. Here we go. Jeff Burton and Ziad Gondor, two of the more aggressive drivers you will find. Able to make that work this time. That did bring Scott Smithson into the equation.
Yeah, and Ashton's just got to deal with this dynamic with those three Mercedes battling out for class position. She's got the lead in her class with a lot of pressure from behind.
Oh, lock up, it looks like, or at least offline, kicking up some debris from Burton. His teammate Smithson ducks to the outside. Can they keep it clean?
Watch Ashton here trying to set this up, and Phil Garris is looking for opportunity. At the same time, we ride on board with Adam Adelson.
Ashton
Feisty is up ahead. Look at Ashton trying to fight her way through. Phil Garris goes through. There's a touch. There's a touch. Second day in a row, same corner that the 93 car is in the gravel bed.
And it got stuck there yesterday. I don't like her odds for getting out. Phil Garris, did he pick up any damage in that coming together?
Well, pick up a damage or a penalty. That was a pretty aggressive move there, and the stewards typically don't like it when you take a car out. See how this one develops, just the overlap between the two classes here. And there was a gap there, but then he can't get the front end turned, and Ashton would not believe that he was going to try and make a move there. So Eric's been so impressive this year, but I'd certainly put that one on the wrong side of the right decision making.
Man, that is heartbreaking for this team. 28 minutes, 35 seconds to go. Our first safety car of the afternoon. The field will cycle around to get behind that safety car. While they do so, let's learn more about the MDK Motorsports team.
What's going on, guys? I'm Trent Nestev, driver of the number 53 992 GT3R, MDK Motorsports Porsche. Today we're going to go over the basics of the new 911. So as a driver, some of the technical specs that really mean a lot to us is obviously the power plant. So in this generation 911, it's a rear engine power plant. Last year went from a 4-liter to a 4.2 liter. So I think the new horsepower now is 565. So more power is always more fun. 6-speed sequential gearbox. We have some really cool creature comforts with this car. We have TC lat and TC long, so we can do slip angles based on the traction control, and also power down lateral changes for traction control as well. Also have lots of ABS changes, so I think we have 11 different ABS changes, 7 in the dry and I think 3, 4 in the wet. We also have a brand new diffuser for this year as well. I think it's about 4 mil longer than the previous generation, and a lot more aeroplaning in the front and in the rear of the car, so lots of cool features here. I think as a whole, Porsche's done a great job with the new 992 GT3R. It's been a lot of fun to drive so far. I think some of the big stuff for me is definitely the change in aero. It's quite compatible in all the high-speed corners, so it's been really, really fun to adapt to as well. So yeah, I think it'll be fun. We have a good platform under us, a good team behind us. I think it'll be fun this year, so looking forward to it.
This team had a great debut at Sonoma the first time out, finishes a 4th and 3rd, definitely on the pace there. This weekend hasn't quite gone as much to plan to this stage, but hey, this is a team that's pretty new to this stuff with 2 drivers that are quite new to racing at this level. They're all learning.
They are, and I think they're going to make an impression very quickly in this championship. It hasn't been the smoothest start, but they're learning quickly. I think that car just didn't seem to have a really good balance in that first phase of the race for Esther.
Under our first safety car of the event, it's George Kurtz out in front. George Kurtz, Samantha Tan, Derek DeBoer, Ziad Gondor, Jeff Burton, Scott Smithson. That's how they run the top 6. Adam Adelson actually was the big winner, I have to say, in that coming together that brought out this yellow, because that cleared away the pro class traffic, and he's now at the back of the rest of his class. We know how quick he could be around this place, and specifically in this race car. He's in 7th. Phil Garris continues to lead in pro, but the incident that brought out this yellow is under review. Chandler Hull is behind him, running 9th overall, 2nd in class, and has been the quickest driver around this circuit for several laps leading up to the yellow.
Yeah, and they certainly had a ton of consistency last year. I think it was 8 podiums with that win finally at Indy, which is a double pointer, so it moved them to third in the championship standings for Chandler Hull and Bill Oberlin. But what a day that would be. What a rebound from Oberlin running shotgun on this field halfway through the opening lap when he got bundled out there in turn 4. He put in an amazing stint, made some big moves. Chandler Hull has shown great pace, and we're waiting to see. I hate to like point the finger, but certainly that 28 car is going to be reviewed for that incident with the 93 car ending up in the gravel trap, a battle for the lead in their class.
I suspect you're right. I mean, we know it's under review, and the way I see it, I'm pretty well in agreement with your read on the situation. Let's go to the other car involved. Ashton Harrison, Mario Farnbacher didn't get a great result yesterday, but it did come past the halfway mark, so they at least scored points. It's not a deep pro class field, so they're still scoring 5th place points. That's the way it's looking again here today, although maybe they can rejoin, but several laps down, maybe there's some attrition, they get back further up the field, we shall see. But I guess that's the good news in this class this year. A bad day, as long as you make it to halfway and are eligible to score points, it's not totally catastrophic in the way it is, say, in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, but for the championship leaders to come in and have the issue with Mario yesterday, and then again for a potential win for well, both days. I mean, Mario was going for the lead yesterday, Ashton had the lead today, so this is a bitter blow to their championship aspirations, but those are the bumps that you have along the road of a championship chase.
23 minutes, 40 seconds to go. The cleanup just about complete. Looking forward to going back to green flag racing at NOLA. Taking a look at the safety car, lights are still on, so we'll go at least one more lap behind that beautiful Toyota GR Supra, official vehicle of SRO America here in 2023. We got a chance to check in pit side with Amanda right now, so let's do it.
I was actually by Racer's Edge when the offer Ashton Harrison happened, and I don't know who was more dejected, that team or CrowdStrike, who was just next to them on pit lane. You got to remember, right before that, these full course yellow conditions, George Kurtz had a 12-second gap. So on this restart, that is completely evaporated for that team. But even going on this restart, look at the names that are in that top 5. These are some of the names that this series is very familiar with in Fanatec GT. I want to go to Ziad Gondor. He had told Daniel Morad ahead of this race that if he makes the podium, he is going to incentivize him. And then with Daniel, we got to remember that to his Twitch community, they want to have the hyperdoc in this car, and they want to be the POG today, and that's the player of the game.
Well, Daniel had a wonderful stint, and that team played the strategy right to get Ziad in position, but that was all built off of the raw pace that Daniel exhibited in his stint, and that's why they brought him in.
Yeah, I mean, it's great strategy, great pace in the machine, and Ziad suddenly got his elbows out when he saw Jeff Burton and Scott Smithson coming.
Oh, yeah.
So seems like he wants to best those other 2 Mercedes in this field. So he's got pressure from behind, but now the gap to Derek DeBoer has been evaporated. As you can see him lining up one behind the other, ready for this restart here.
Looks like the restart is coming the next time by. Still waiting on word from race control. The incident is under review, 93 and 28. So Phil Garris in the 28, the 93 Harrison. This is the car in question. Right now, the leader in Pro.
But yeah, it was just one of those moments. It was half-hearted. He wasn't alongside. He just kind of stuck his nose in there. And that's a shame, because Eric has done just such a great job of getting up to speed. He has 0 GT3 experience prior to this season. He's got a great teammate to learn from in terms of Stephen McAleer.
Well, that's up to the stewards at this point. Now it comes down to those behind the wheel. George Kurtz heading to the VP acceleration zone. He is the leader. He puts the pedal down. We've got a car diving for pit lane. That was Smithson. That was from a near podium position, certainly top 5 in the Pro-Am class. We'll chase that story, but right now, everyone chasing George Kurtz. Gondor goes on the defensive. because here comes Jeff Burton looking to go the long way around.
Side by sword, Gondor sends it down to the inside. Equal pegging there coming off of turn 2, but Gandor hangs on to it.
Great driving by Ziad Gondor. Enter the chat. Adam Adelson, he goes up the inside, gets to the door of Jeff Burton, and he's going to grab the spot away.
Pat on the back there for Jeff Burton, recognizing that. And look at this pressure now from Derek DeBoer on Samantha Tan. George Kurtz has taken off a little bit. Derek DeBoer tries to get to the inside for P2.
Oh, Derek has been plotting this under that safety car. You know, he's been chomping at the bit to get another chance to make a run at Samantha Tan. Couldn't quite get the job done, but showing a little bit more pace. That car, though, does look like a handful. Big twitch for him on the exit of the corner.
George Kurtz has just taken off with these two battling right behind him. Perfect restart lap here for George Kurtz.
And don't sleep on Adelson. He made the move just a few moments ago to get up one more position. Now he's behind Gondor, and he can see his quarry out the windshield. He's as close as he's been to the lead. They are coming from the back of the pack. Started, I want to say 15th today. Right now, they've got a chance to get on the podium, if not more.
They certainly do. That would be a great rebound from where they qualified for this race. Deep in the pack. Yeah.
Second to last row. So great work by Skier in the first stint. Adelson doing his thing, but he's running out of time. Under 19 minutes to go. George Kurtz, his lead, 2.1 seconds over Samantha Tan.
What a restart lap there for George Kurtz. Here comes Adam Adelson. Down to the inside on Gandor. On the march, looking for a podium.
Oh, yeah.
Up to P4 right now.
Here he comes. He knows what's possible now. Now that he's clear of that traffic, he finds himself just on the fringe of a podium finish.
Plenty of time to go here. Probably about another 11, 12 laps or so to work with.
Update from Amanda, the issue for Scott Smithson, some camber shims came loose and brought him to pit lane.
There's a couple of areas on this racetrack, like here between 5 and 6, and coming on that front straightaway, you really use a lot of curb. It's pretty abrupt, creates that oscillation through the chassis, through the suspension. Can work those shim packages loose.
That is tough, though, because they were so strong yesterday. Looked like they were in position to back that up with another good result today.
Essentially what the shim package is these little plates that go in there to adjust the camber in the rear suspension. And kind of that's the angle, the lean of the tire with its static setup to try and get the perfect contact patch as you're loaded coming through the corners. And if they come loose, they basically have the ability to fall out. And that is not a nice feel when the rear suspension is moving around as you're turning into these corners.
George Kurtz, the lead. Well, it's grown, but only marginally, up to 2.2 seconds. Samantha Tan just about a 10th off on that last lap, running in second, but driving in her mirrors as well, because Derek DeBoer looks like a rejuvenated racing driver. He's about to go on the attack. Let's go down and hear more about the DXDT story with Amanda.
O'Brien, it's been reported already on the camber shims for Scott Smithson, but man, it seems like you guys just keep getting closer and closer to success in this Mercedes. How close is it?
I mean, we're kind of banging on the door right now. You know, some of these things, they happen sometimes. You know, this is a tough track. There's a lot of curbs that you use. It's rough on everything, shakes everything around, and unfortunately, you know, the way those things work, they're not captured, so as soon as they start to loosen, they fall out. And from the driver's perspective, it's inoperable. You know, you have one side of the wheel moving in and out nonstop, so it hurts because I think we have speed, and I think we have a great team behind us. You know, yesterday is a little bit of a, you know, a boost in confidence for everyone, but today, you know, today stinks, so we'll learn. We'll come back stronger in COTA.
Well, it hurts for the day and it hurts for the championship as well. Once you get that momentum, you do want to try and get those points built up.
Adelson has run down second and third. That's Derek DeBoer, third place runner just out the windshield. This battle is going to be good for the final 15 minutes.
Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Skip Barber Racing School, VP Racing, Optima batteries, and 511.
Adam Adelson has been the man on the move since the restart. He's carved up a couple of positions. Now he finds himself at the back door of Derek DeBoer. Took a peek to the inside, couldn't get there. Now settles back in and sizes up that Aston for another assault.
Yeah, he's going to keep pushing. I'm not sure he can catch George Kurtz, but knocking on the door of the podium right now. Still some time to work with. Want to be patient, but not too patient. Also end up getting into the same sort of rhythm of the car in front of you. You do have an advantage in pace. Make sure you pounce. Otherwise, your cadence kind of settles into what they're doing.
From this onboard shot, where does Adelson look strong relative to the Aston?
Even here through the high-speed S's, obviously he's getting a little bit of aero wash. That air's not hitting the front of his car as cleanly as it would be if he was by himself. They've had the handling dialed in on this Porsche this year, down the straightaway. I'd say the advantage with the Aston. Let's sit on board here for this straight and see what happens. Losing half a car length, even though he's in the draft there. So if they were separated, that gap would be growing even quicker. But that's all part of the balance of performance. Some cars are going to be stronger down the straightaway, suffer a little bit through the corners.
Leaders in Pro working their way through this Pro-Am field. Gondor overhauled there by Phil Garris. Still waiting to hear. Oh, we do have an update from race control. The incident will be reviewed post-race, so they're going to want to look at some onboard footage and things like that.
Tough one.
Yep.
Tough one. You really want to know, ideally, in the race, what the circumstances are you're dealing with. And now if there's going to be a time penalty, a drive-through penalty would probably add about 40 seconds to his race time. So you hate to see that for Chandler Hull. That puts him in a quandary as well. Do I keep pushing, trying to find the lead of this race, or am I going to inherit it post-race?
Exactly. Of all the people who wants to know the outcome of this, Chandler Hull is probably at the top of the list. Instead, right now, he's got to figure out a way to get by Ziad Gondor to bring the fight back to Eric Filgaris at the front of the Pro class. The gap from first to second is 2.1 seconds. George Kurtz leads. Samantha Tan in the runner-up position. Adam Adelson has worked his way back up into the fourth spot, right behind Derek DeBoer, and then the leader in the Pro class, but still awaiting the ultimate outcome. It will be reviewed post-race. This incident here, fighting for the lead in the Pro class about 20 minutes ago.
And turn 6 there, just feel it was too late. The door wasn't wide open. Aston was running the natural line into that corner. And he just kind of poked his nose in there, so they don't feel it was clear-cut enough to make a decision as we go, so they'll review the video. I'm not sure what they're going to see any different from what we saw from the high cams, to be honest with you, but nonetheless, Eric will continue to charge, trying to hold on to the lead. Chandler Hull has now got no cars between he and Filgaris, I believe.
This is for position. Burton and Luck. The recovery drive continuing for the 45 machine. Remember, they had their issue really early on.
Yeah, and Halen getting that penalty for illegal start procedure. I believe it was because he crossed Collins before the start-finish line.
This doesn't sound like much, but every point can matter. This team certainly knows that. They've been in the championship battles the last few years.
Look at this compression. Look at Manny Franco on the charge there, I believe it was we were looking at, tails away.
Yep, he's right behind Will Hardeman in that silver Mercedes. Truly a Silver Arrows look to that car. This is Franco on board. He's third in class as they run. Seth Lucas, his closest competitor, right behind. Oh my
See Charlie Luck
goodness.
completely sideways there. I think he maybe hooked that curb a little bit too much and went to power at the same time.
Now, when you can read the logos on the door as the car behind, you know that's a heart in your throat kind of moment.
For sure. As you said, that would be a great rebound effort for that group. climb up into the top 5 potentially here today. Tough to go any further, I feel. Whoa, that was tight. These two just nip and tuck between Jeff Burton and Ziad Gandor.
Hey, on paper, that has a matchup that's got fireworks written all over it, right? It's broken off for now. He slips wide. Luck goes to the inside as Jan Heylen watches on. Luck goes up a spot. Hardiman follows through. Really good drive from Will here as well. Franco now tries the outside of Jeff Burton. It goes to show what one little slip-up can do when you're in a big train like this.
Yeah, is Manny able to clear Burton? I think he has. That was tight, very tight. Now he's up and over the curbs. Jeff comes back at him.
Oh, and Franco goes around.
Yeah, just in the marbles. Just in the marbles. That's unfortunate.
Can he keep it rolling? No.
It's going to be dead stick right there. That's unfortunate. He tried to keep it clean and just run around the outside, and then the marbles just caught him out, I think.
And has been a huge topic of conversation, the nature of this track. Whatever's in the aggregate, it really does chew through the tires, creates a lot of marbles offline. See it again.
Just wide of the line. Been talking about it all weekend. That's really the first case we've seen it come into play, to be honest with you, in the GT3 race at least.
Something we have not seen much out of Manny Franco. Safety car deployed. An error like that.
Be a tough one. Probably looking at a couple of lap shootout here at the end, possibly, the time we get this car pulled out.
It's all going to matter about how quickly they can get that car retrieved. We will see. Hopefully we get a chance to get this race restarted, but for now, it's behind the safety car once again. George Kurtz, CrowdStrike Racing by Riley, showing the way. Interesting the way you look at this. I mean, if it ends under yellow, George Kurtz is all about it. If it doesn't, well, that just brought Samantha Tan back into the picture. It brought Derek DeBoer back. Perhaps more importantly, it brought Adam Adelson, who has been flying.
Yes, I think that may be the key right there. I think George has done a really nice job of handling this pressure, and that restart he did before was excellent. Obviously prepped his tires accordingly, got the leap and just took off. But I think for Adelson, this may be opportunity, but I think he maybe was thinking I could maybe get up to P2 here.
Yep.
Will he have enough time to work with to make that happen? I'm not sure, but certainly we'll see some fireworks here.
Well, you know, and we shouldn't sleep on Derek DeBoer either, because he was racy on that restart. He took the fight to Samantha Tan just a few minutes ago.
For sure. And also, let's think about Eric Filgueras. He's still not knowing if he's going to get dinged with a penalty of any kind after the race. Chandler Hull doesn't know either, so he's going to be pushing.
For sure, and Chandler Hull had lost some ground to Filgueras dealing with out-of-class traffic. That's all wiped away. The only question is how much time will they have to fight? Can we get this race back under green? We just don't know at this stage. But a lot still to be determined in the final 7 minutes and change.
Just got to get the field under control here before you can even get the wrecker out to the scene of the incident.
It will cost time, that's for sure. Up next for the championship is a trip to Circuit of the Americas. It'll be in the middle of May. Excited to go back. It's been a few years for SRO America. It used to be a mainstay. Certainly a lot of drivers really enjoy the chance to go race there, home of the US Grand Prix, of course. Track that has its own sets of challenges. Very long, it's got its own bumps that you always hear the F1 drivers talk about, although I think those have been dealt with to some degree in recent years. But does tend to put on pretty good GT3 racing. Well, again, that's coming up, the next round of the championship for Fanatec GT America in the middle of May. Here's the rescue work underway, trying to pull Manny Franco out. Safety car coming around again with the lights still on. Time starting to run out. Sand slowly slipping through the hourglass here. Just hoping to get this race restarted.
I think we will. It's going to be tight, but I think a 1 or 2 lap shootout is still on the cards here.
Where are your eyes on these restarts then? Who do you think might be?
I think Adelson, certainly. I think Chandler Hull has got to be thinking in that Bimmerworld car, which is, what, sixth in line, excuse me. Does he go on the attack here and not be thinking that he's got an ace up his sleeve with a potential penalty for Filgueras post-race?
Franco has been freed from the gravel trap. Now just trying to get some of that gravel out. It's amazing how much that accumulates underneath these modern race cars when you go into a gravel trap like that. Let's check in with Amanda down in the pit lane now while we're still under the safety car.
Well, I was talking to Bill Oberlin just on the situation with the RS1 Porsche that's going to be reviewed after the race. And as you can imagine, they're pretty frustrated in the situation. It puts Chandler in that dilemma of, hey, do I race this guy out? And could this possibly end in tears for both of these teams? I asked Bill, I was like, well, what's the reaction from Chandler? He said, well, it's exactly what I just said, but with more explicit words.
Sure, understandable. Tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
And think about this too. This team has not won with this duo one of these 90-minute races yet in Fanatec GT. They've won their portion of the Indy 8-hour.
Correct.
But that's a little bit different, right? That's not the same format. They've been close. They've been on the podium a bunch. We're about to see if today might be the day. The lights are out. Calvin was right. We will get a shootout to finish this off. I teased it as the Battle of New Orleans. The final stanza about to take place at NOLA Motorsports Park, 8 miles southwest of the Big Easy itself. It's about time to go back to green.
Should be a 3-lap shootout.
Safety car accelerates away. George Kurtz in command. Crowd strike by Riley, the team. George into the acceleration zone, and he puts the power down as he has done. He has a nice, solid advantage. So let's look further behind him then. Samantha Tan not under any pressure. Adelson not too far from the board. Here comes Chandler Hull. This is for the lead in the pro class.
Going for the lead, uses that BMW straightaway spade, inches back over in front of Filgueras. Nice move, nice timing there by Chandler Hull. Keeps it together, grabs the lead.
The Texan leaving nothing to chance. He's got his fate in his own hands. He has driven his way to P1 in class.
Watch Adelson down at the inside, poking his nose down the inside of Derek DeBoer, looking for that podium position.
He's got Hull filling his mirrors, not for class position. Oh, and it got in deep. Was there contact?
How that did not end up in contact and the car getting turned, I do not know.
Looked like DeBoer went to the brakes before Adelson anticipated he would, and somehow they avoid it coming together.
Whew. I thought that was all over. Thought he was just going to tip him. Amazing.
2.5 minutes to go. What does Chandler Hull do here? How much does he interfere with the Pro-Am battle in front of him?
Well, I'd love to get a buffer. I think he's just got to think about being tight to Adelson.
And Adelson's off! Plowing through the grass, spinning out of podium contention. Can he keep it out of the racing line? That is close. Oh, that was nearly disaster.
That was weird. I'm not sure if he had a twitch and just tried to correct it and went straight. Grill is absolutely stuffed with mud and debris.
And that brings everybody back together.
And goes around, gets turned by Charlie. I think he's already gone sideways, but Charlie finished it off either way.
Yep.
Elbows are out here at the finish.
It's a frantic dash to the checkers. We'll have 2 more laps at NOLA Motorsports Park. No white flag this time. It'll be the next time around. George Kurtz leads by 1.6 seconds. The battle now is for second. Samantha Tan into ST Racing BMW. Derek DeBoer for TRG.
Samantha's done an awesome job, as has George Kurtz. Look at the opening laps they've been putting together here this afternoon. Derek DeBoer still thinking about P2. Takes it to the high side here in turn 3. Little wiggle there, couldn't make it stick.
He made the lunge, though. He certainly gave it a good try, and he's not done yet. Has some momentum. Again, tries the outside, but he got in too deep and into the marbles. Derek DeBoer does a great job to keep it pointed straight, but then contact with Filgueras.
Wild stuff here in the closing phases of this race.
Here comes Luck. Here comes Hardiman. I don't know if either would have believed that they had a chance to be on the podium with the way their races started, but that's very much in the picture now.
This is crazy. Derek's just got to settle back in here, try and keep it together and hang on to that final podium position here in the class.
It gave a reprieve to Chandler Hull. He now finds himself with no pressure behind thanks to that. Now he comes up on the back of Samantha Tan, not for class position.
Got a little bit of a buffer to work with. He just needs Samantha to do her thing, hit her marks. That would probably be okay with the pace she's running. Going to be tight, but there'll be a few seconds left on the board here, so we should not see a checkered flag this time by.
Phil Garris has caught back up to Hull, so he'll need to get a move on. In the meantime, the white flag flutters above George Kurtz. He needs just one more lap to notch his second overall win of the season.
4 seconds left on the clock there. He couldn't afford to manage it any better and slow down, otherwise everyone's going to be right on top of him. Chandler Hull here, desperately just trying to get Samantha to just move on, let me through or move on. He's going to tuck it to the inside, has to go for it, can't afford to hang around.
Slips on by, can Phil Garris follow him through? How much will Samantha help her fellow BMW running mate? Not sure she really has a chance to. So in the background, there is still a standing yellow around this track. We'll have to keep an eye out for that.
And look at this, has allowed Derek DeBoer with that little shuffle there with the classes overlapping. Has allowed Derek DeBoer now to put the pressure back on Samantha Tan. Oh, she goes straight. Believe she went straight on there. That was bizarre. She just didn't turn into the corner.
She does gather it back up and rejoins. Adelson's stranded car, you saw him in the picture.
Technical issue.
It's not done yet. Oh my goodness, ST Racing looked like they had a great result in the bag. But now our focus is at the front of the field. It was the strategy call on the pit box. Bill Riley and company, they kept Colin Brown out deep into that opening stint. That put them leapfrogged all the way to the front of the field. George Kurtz then has taken over. He's managed the restarts masterfully, and he just has one corner left to negotiate. George Kurtz comes out of turn 16 for the final time. Kurtz, Brown, and CrowdStrike win Race True here at NOLA Motorsports Group. The win in the pro class goes to Chandler Hull. Finally, they get it done in one of these 90-minute races. He and Bill Oberlin with a great recovery after Bill's off early in the race. Phil Garris second on the road. DeBoer and Luck complete the podium in the Pro-Am class, and Anthony Bartone brings the lone Am class car home in 10th overall. What a wild race. There's the man who prevailed overall. George Kurtz and Riley take it to victory lane. Wow.
That was a wild one.
Sure was.
Tell you what, this racetrack provides awesome racing. Really does. Just the sequence of corners, the ability to go side by side, plus the multi-cross racing with the overlaps there. Sensational stuff. Big disappointment for a number of those teams. Samantha Tan did an awesome job. She and John Edwards truly deserved a podium result here today. Not sure what happened there. She just suddenly didn't turn the race car. Not sure if something shut down or what happened.
Today was all about recovery, and Chandler Hull and Bimmer World, they personify that spirit of recovery. Bill Oberlin was off track early in this race.
Last on
Absolutely.
the road.
17th.
His second overall.
Isn't that something? It goes to show why you just don't give up.
You can see it now as we follow the cars slowly.
Yes, and that might be part of the story for some of the fireworks we saw late in this race. Cars getting off track into those marbles. VHC with the fastest lap of the race. I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again. He turned this place into his own private French Quarter. Lone French driver in the field. And Valentin Hasseclos looked right at home here in La Nouvelle-Orléans, as it was known when it was founded back in 1718 by his countrymen.
You've been keeping these up your sleeve all day, haven't you?
You know it. All weekend. When I saw there was a French driver on the entry list, are you kidding me? Oh, wow. For TRG, now they'll take the second place finish. Great result. Best Derek DeBoer has done in his brief GT3 career. But you wonder about that fuel light that came on that cut that opening stint short for his teammate who was setting fast lap after fast lap. What might have been had they been able to run him as deep into the stint as they would have liked.
Well, we questioned the strategy because we thought they just elected to bring him in. He was forced to come in with that fuel situation, but then you go back to the strategy of how they started the race. I think they all go hand in hand. They elected to not short fill, but be pretty marginal in terms of getting, but they needed a bit more on to at least be able to run flat out through 50 minutes. So a miscalculation there of some sort. Could have been a pickup issue, who knows?
Well, they'll go back and they'll check on that, looking ahead to the next round of the championship at Circuit of the Americas. The cars have made their way back to the pit lane, and soon the winners will be in victory circle. George Kurtz and Colin Brown once again able to pick up an overall victory. Highlights from a dramatic last few laps there. That was a lot of fun, these last few laps.
Oh, I wonder if there was a cut with that bumper, whether he punctured a radiator, it got some fluid on his front tires. That's why it wouldn't turn. There was definitely some contact between Adelson and De Boer there.
Yeah, there was there too with Luck and Gondor, but it kind of looked like Gondor might have been going around anyway. There you see De Boer get off into those marbles we've been talking about and struggles to rejoin. Oh boy, tough day for Adelson when it looked like they had a good shot at a podium from 16th on the grid. Helmet comes off for George Kurtz. He is all smiles. Another win for this team, which is firing on all cylinders, Amanda. Go ahead, Amanda.
And the first hat is on George Kurtz. I talked to you before, after the podium of the last race, and you said I gave you a lot to talk about in the GT America race. Well, you guys absolutely did on this one. I want to go to those restarts. I'm sure your rearview mirror was a little full, but talk about just the exciting race at hand.
Oh, it's an exciting race. You know, we had a rough day yesterday. We put it all together today. We had a great drive, and you know, it's just like, how many restarts can we do? We get a gap, and then we just got to build it up again. But hopefully that made it fun for the fans and exciting. And, you know, we wanted to be back on the top, and here we are.
Colin, I think you came in for the driver change for the pit stop with 10 seconds to spare. How much faith do you have in this team?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, when you got guys like Bill Riley and Matt on our pit box, you know, those guys are doing the right things. And so, yeah, great day. Awesome job by GK and these guys. We had some repairs overnight on both the cars. They stayed here till midnight working their butts off. And, you know, nice to be able to give them a good finish and a great result. You know, yeah, man, what a call by those guys and what a drive by GK surviving those restarts. And, you know, great team effort for us. Really proud of the CrowdStrike Rally guys.
We're just moments away here from the podium celebrations here at NOLA Motorsports, but it was a loud yell coming out of the BMW for Chandler Hull that I heard. And Chandler, I see you and Eric speaking on, I'm sure, those last laps, but you didn't leave it to the fate of the hands of what was going to happen after race control. You went around Eric Fogaris knowing to get that win as a period on that. Talk about that move.
I knew we had a fast BMW. It's been fast in yesterday's race and today's race, so I used that to my advantage. And the first restart behind Eric, I couldn't quite get close enough through the last corner and couldn't make the move into one. And so I was going to make sure if I had another opportunity to do that, I was going to absolutely get him into one. That's where we've been strongest all weekend, and just use that to our advantage. And luckily, put another couple cars in between us, so there was no chance.
Well, congratulations. I know the celebration between you and Bill Oberlin will be a strong one.
Provisional results here from race 2 of the weekend at NOLA Motorsports Park. Colin Brown and George Kurtz. George, yes, it did make it more exciting for us. No problem about that. As for their performance, look, they executed at every level. The drivers did what they needed to do, and the pit strategy was perfection. So, great result for them yet again. Their strong start to the season continues. Now let's take a look at the Pro Class results here, and it was that long-awaited first victory in this format for the pairing of Hull and Oberlin. It's been a long time coming, though.
It has. They've been knocking on the door, so consistent. Great effort here this weekend. Had pace, had the straightaway speed to pounce when they had the opportunity there on that restart. Excellent job by Chandler Hull and Bill Oberlin. What a rebound after being off course early in this race.
Garrison McAleer second on the road after a win yesterday, but that car still very much under scrutiny. That incident with Harrison and Filgaris under review, and that will be determined post-race. Highlights of the dramatic second race of the weekend. Battles all throughout this field. Oh my goodness, where do we even start here? This was Oberlin getting shoved off early in the race. Somehow they came back to win in their class. This is part of the reason why. He was aggressive, Bill Oberlin, scything back through the field.
Yeah, he'd have been fired up after getting bumped off there early in the going. This is Balzan there out wide, couldn't go anywhere with it. Ashton Harrison, Eric Filgaris, what a battle they had. I think this is early in the race, actually. Mario Farnbacher getting around Stephen McAleer.
Exactly, but this is after that driver change. This is that moment that is still being reviewed. As it ended, well, it was Harrison in the gravel trap. Filgaris continued on. Scary stuff there from Adam Adelson. Something seemed to go amiss. There had been contact earlier. This is all in the final couple of laps here, by the way. So much broke out on that final restart. And the checkered flag was there, awaiting George Kurtz, Cullen Brown, and Riley. Chandler Hall, Bill Oberlin, Bimmerworld following them across the line in second overall, but the winners in the Pro class. And there's a look at your AM class winners of Pilgrim as well as Bartone. Busy day, by the way, for the Bartone family. Their dragster is racing in, well, somewhere on the East Coast. I think it's in Charlotte, in that area. In any event, they're a busy group, but happy with their performance out this way. Yes, indeed, Charlotte, the Bartone Bros Racing Top Alcohol Funny Car in action there today, in addition to what they're doing here in New Orleans. Podium celebration getting underway here. And it is the Pro class that will be recognized first. Look, this was hard fought for the MDK guys. Didn't really look like they had the best platform under them, but they still persevered and came home in the top three.
They did. Big smiles with those two young men. True professionals. They've really got a lot of talent and an exciting young team.
Yeah, definitely. Talked to Seth earlier in the weekend, and he feels like they're a bit ahead of the curve, or they were leaving Sonoma. They'll go back to the drawing board, learn from this weekend, come back stronger at Coda. McAleer and Filgaris, winners yesterday, second today. And in just a few moments, it'll be Hull and Oberlin taking the top step of the podium. There they are, the Pro Class winners, accepting the congratulations of their title rivals. Lucas and Estep on the right, Filgaris and McAleer on the left. But smiles all around for the Bimmer World boys, and they get that first place trophy. From the back of the pack to second overall and first in class.
Racing's a funny game, huh? You never know.
No, you do not. You just got to stay in the game, as they did. A few things fell their way, but they also had the pace to capitalize. And look, we said it right going into the pit stop window. Watch Chandler Hull. He's a quick driver, and he put that on full display.
Well, you think about all the manufacturers that got involved here. Mercedes is strong. The BMW looks strong today. Porsche have had victories. Ferrari have been knocking on the door. So it's a cool, cool championship.
That's great to see. Such a nice mixture of manufacturers, of teams, experience levels. There's plenty of veterans in this game, but also those that are making a big step, like the Seth Lucases of the world or the Eric Filgarises. Even Chandler Hull, who's been doing this for a few years now, he doesn't have a whole lot, not that many years, you know, in his back pocket of racing at a really high level, but he's packed a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, he certainly has fast-tracked his career with the amount of races that he's put under his belt over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and is just really matured in a great, great way over the last 12 months or so.
Now we await the rest of the podium, and it will be Pro-Am recognized second on account of the fact it was a Pro-Am lineup that won overall. We've seen it once before. In fact, it was this same lineup earlier this year. This was George Kurtz climbing out of his Mercedes to the adulation of his crew. Phenomenal effort, and it was a full team effort for the Riley Motorsports gang. George, so busy, so active, so passionate when it comes to his racing. This is what he does it for. A chance to sip that champagne. It's a look at the race car. Not too many battle scars on that one. They kept it nice and clean.
They did. Really smooth day. Strategy was excellent, maximizing every ounce of pace that Colin had. But George was up to the task as well.
That's a wrap for us here in NOLA. Up next for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, a trip to Circuit of the Americas. That'll be in the middle of May. Hope to see you there. For our entire crew, Cal and Amanda, I'm Ryan. Thanks for joining us. So long for now. And now we have the Pro-Am podium as well as the Am class drivers being recognized up on the podium. Big high five there. VHC and Derek DeBoer celebrating a great result. Spent a bunch of time at the very front of the field. And Derek showed a great deal of racecraft. He's been honing that craft in Pirelli GT4 America over the last several seasons, and it was on full display. And now we welcome up the overall winners of the race. George Kurtz, Colin Brown, Crown Strike by Riley.
All right, drivers, go ahead and raise those trophies for me.
A lot of happy folks up on the rostrum, as you would expect. Hard-fought race weekend. You think about all we've been through with the weather yesterday, the long delay, mixed conditions in race 1, totally different conditions in race 2. We've seen a little bit of everything this weekend.
We really have. It's been a fantastic weekend. Some awesome, awesome racing. We had the curveball with the weather yesterday, had the delay, but still got it in. We've had to delay the Pirelli GT4 race a little bit later in our schedule, but nonetheless, this racetrack delivers. Just provides great opportunity for side-by-side racing, multi-class racing can coexist. Fun weekend. Great to be here.
Absolutely was. And when you think about the fact that this was a track that was not original even on the calendar last year. It was kind of a last-minute deal, but it's quickly emerged as a fixture, and it does seem like there's a nice fit between the championship and the venue. The racing has been good, especially in some of the less downforce-dependent categories, but today showed that you could put on a really good race here with GT3 cars.
You can. Yeah, I mean, aero wash is always a concern with these high downforce machines, but there's enough room to get around with it, move the lines around, get innovative, make it happen.
Fantastic outing here today. Great weekend. Up next again is that trip to Austin, Texas. Hope you join us at Circuit of the Americas, the next round of GT World Challenge America.